How could we not?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Deborah, thank you. Okay, so a lot of the stories in my book are travel stories, and some are about Korea, there's one about Japan, there's one about India, actually two about India, two about Japan. So I thought it would be good to read one of the travel stories. And this is one that, and these are all real stories, you understand that took place in Korea. It was in March of whatever year it was. 1992. And my son Jeremy was teaching English in Seoul that year. And I had gone to visit him. So this is called Oh No. On a warm spring day in March, I stopped to buy a can of Sac grape soda from a young man selling postcards and drinks from his cooler in a shady opening on the trail. Sac is an amusing Korean soft drink, white grape juice with some whole peeled grapes included. I was on my way down the mountain from the Sokuram Cave, one of the great Buddhist treasures of Korea. Yellow forsythia and purple azaleas were blooming in openings between the red pines and cedars on the mountainside. I was thirsty and the soda was cold. I looked up at the pines against the blue sky. A squirrel leapt from tree to tree, paused to look at me, and chattered briefly. Korean squirrels are very dark, almost black, and have long furry ears, but otherwise much the same as their North American cousins. It suddenly came to me that all of this was familiar, well known. The scene was one that could have been anywhere in the temperate zones of planet Earth. I was comfortable here, as much at home as the squirrel. So many other things about Korea were unfamiliar. The often unidentifiable food. Are these cooked sticks, worms, insects? Sleeping arrangements in the small yogwons where I stayed, strong acrid smells in the markets and shops, the language, of course, and many traditional customs. I had arrived a week earlier. My son Jeremy had been teaching English in Seoul for 6 months and was very enthusiastic about Korea. He had lent me Culture Shock Korea, a book on Korean etiquette. It seems that Koreans can be both very polite and kind in many situations, and also what we would consider quite rude in others. In the next few days, Jeremy and I had traveled around, and he'd showed me the basics I needed to know to get around the country on my own. How to read the well-designed blocky Hangul script, dishes to order any time of day in any small restaurant, bibimbap and japchae, and the universal greeting "Annyeonghaseyo," meaning "Are you at peace?" He added the words for thank you and "Where is the bus stop?" for good measure. Korean people had been very generous and kind to me. I'd been given a string of prayer beads at a Buddhist temple by a polite lady who saw that I had none. A family of 4 on the train had shared their snacks of the favorite ojinga, dried squid. None of them spoke English, and I was glad that I could thank them by saying "Kamsahamnida." The enormous 10-foot-high granite Sokuram Buddha in the artificial cave on the top of the mountain was calm and remote, but not the most moving figure I'd seen on this first adventure in Korea. The space inside the cave was small and stuffy, the scent of incense strong. The few Korean visitors bowed reverently and quietly chanted prayers. I didn't linger. Most gratifying to me was the sense of accomplishment at having successfully found my way up on the 3-kilometer trail all the way up the mountain. The markers were all written in Hangul. I had a smile on my face as I headed back down the mountain, thinking of lunch and a beer at one of the restaurants near the trailhead. The day was warming up, so I took off my windbreaker, tied it around my waist over my plain yellow t-shirt. 2 middle-aged Korean couples came walking up the narrow trail towards me, laughing and talking in a holiday mood. These folks were all tricked out in new jackets in the bright colors favored by Koreans: red, hot pink, orange, chartreuse. They wore knickers with tall, patterned hiking socks above sturdy boots. Both men wore photographer's vests, and around their necks were impressive cameras with large protruding lenses. The ladies had on those visors with extra-long brims favored by Asian women. They had shiny black permed curls, fashionable in their age group. All four of them were looking at me, frankly curious and talking, whilst walking slowly up towards me. Our military supplies plenty of guys, but you don't see many middle-aged Western women here. I was used to Koreans staring at me, looking me over. Unlike the sidelong glances of the discreet Japanese, they had no compunction about this. As the foursome approached, still chatting, I smiled and called, "Annyeonghaseyo!" Are you at peace? The standard greeting in this country. I was eager to be friendly, as so many Koreans had been kind to me. One of the women stepped out ahead of the others. She was carefully made up and really quite pretty. "Annyeonghaseyo," she replied, looking at me with a smile, and said quite a few other words. I had no idea what she was saying, but she seemed to be asking a question. I stopped walking, unsure of what she wanted. Then, coming close and continuing to speak, she stepped right up to me, reached out her right hand to my t-shirt, and cupped my left breast. She pressed the soft flesh, lifted it gently as if weighing it. "Oh no, you can't do that," I said. The others had stopped and were laughing, shouting out encouragement. She laughed and said something excited to her companions. Then she gently jiggled my breast up and down. No, stop. She shifted it again, slowly, side to side. She smiled and said again something to her friends, who continued to laugh and shout. I was too stunned to be afraid, but I just yelled again, "Stop that, stop that." I was about to push her away, but then she stepped back, turned, and continued to speak a torrent of words to the others, always laughing. She joined her companions as they passed by, walking fast up the mountain now, all jovially talking. The four smiled and made quick little bows to me, saying, "Annyeonghaseyo," and one of the men shouted, "Bye-bye." They continued walking briskly on their way up towards the cave. I stood still for a minute or two, slightly in shock. What was that about? Was she making fun of me? Was she admiring my generous endowment? Why would these folks do this? Was this way out of line for Koreans to behave? There wasn't anyone I could tell about this incident. I would have to wait till I saw Jeremy a few days later in Seoul. When I told him the story, he was highly amused. Koreans think that Western women have big breasts, he said, and yours are really quite impressive. Maybe they thought yours weren't real. Maybe it was a bet or a dare. Were they drunk at that hour of the morning? It's a possibility. Or was she touching my breasts and hoping that hers might enlarge? In any case, Koreans are less prudish about personal space and bodies in general, as I'd noticed in the unisex toilets and baths at the Yogwan. I've told this story to various of my friends, Koreans as well as Americans. All were very surprised by it. The Koreans were embarrassed by this obviously rude behavior of their compatriots. The Americans wondered why I didn't just slug her. And that's all I was